Hello, everyone, and welcome to IT Love Fest. I'm Jonathan Crow. I'm Director of Content and Community at Ninja One, and I'm so happy to see everybody blowing up the chat. We've got a really great crowd here, and I know this isn't Valentine's Day. That was past. That was Monday. It feels like so long ago, but you know what? We're here to keep the love going. And as I was discussing with our lovely panelists here, what day is better than Valentine's Day? The day 3 days after Valentine's Day, when all the Reese's candy goes not 50%, but like 75% off. So that's what we're all going to do after this this webinar is over. We're going to be hitting up the stores. But in the meantime, between now and then, we've got some really great stuff for you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, for taking time out of the day. I'm going to introduce our guests in just a second, but wanted to give you a sense of kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Here we are, gathered to celebrate love. The love that we all have for the technology that we work with, and also the love that we have for the people we work with, right? Those relationships can be a little bit more complicated sometimes. But at the end, this job is all about helping people. And that's why we really appreciate everything at Ninja One that you guys do on the call. You got my emails. You have probably seen this before. But for those of you who haven't, we've got a little belated Valentine's Day message. This is a special one. This is from someone that you may recognize.
Hey, everyone. Kenny G here with a shout out to all of you working in IT. This is from your friends at Ninja One who reached out to me so we could say thank you for all that you do. It's demanding work. You're the ones that keep things up and running. And when things go wrong, you're the only ones that can fix it. So Ninja One wanted me to play a song for you to say thank you for all that you do and take a well-deserved breather and enjoy this music. All my best.
About half the audience is like, oh my gosh, we're going to abandon. We're going to lose like half our audience right now with Kenny G. The other half, we'll sit back and enjoy. It's so smooth. It's so smooth. And we've lost Ray. Well, guys, I just want to welcome everybody again with this. We're going to get to the agenda in just a sec. We've got great people on the call here, great panelists you're going to hear from. We got great prizes. And with this...
enjoyed that. All my best.
And there you go, Kenny. With that,
hey, everyone,
let's get
Kenny
into
G
it.
Here.
All right, so we're going to be talking about favorite open source tools. We're going to be giving away prizes, so please stick around for that. We're going to be talking about showing users the love, how you're taking cool steps to do that. For people in the chat here, we're going to be looking for examples of things that you're doing with onboarding, other personal touches that you make. We're also going to be sharing some really awesome thank yous that some people submitted, they've gotten from end users, more prizes. And then finally, we're going to be closing out with some thoughts and suggestions around how to turn all that user satisfaction that you're getting into buy-in, into some actual stats that you can use to earn that buy-in. And then I want to make a special note. Please stick around at the end. We're going to be at 2 p.m. actually going over a little bit with some bonus content. We're going to talk with Kelvin Tegelaar from CyberDrain. He just launched his Capture the Flag event. This is the third time that they're doing that. A lot of you here in the audience are definitely have participated in the past. We've got great prizes with that too. So stick around. We've got another one of our customers who is going to be competing, and they're going to be talking about the CTF event. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing that. And with that said, let's go over to introducing our panel here, our lovely folks. First of all, we've got Tom Lawrence from Lawrence Systems. Tom, thank you so much for taking time. You're probably a familiar face for a lot of folks. You have a massive YouTube channel where you do a lot of content on open source. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, awesome. It's exciting for sure.
And then we've also got Elizabeth Copeland from Tier 2 Tickets. Elizabeth is a great active vendor in the space. Elizabeth, I'm very excited to have you on here for lots of reasons, but one of which is you did an article that we'll share in the chat here where you really hit on basically the relationship with working with end users and how people can improve that relationship. So anyway, it's great to have you here. Really appreciate you being here too.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
And that's a great read, by the way. I shared that too.
Nice.
Thanks. So talk about grandparents and Harry Potter. What else do you need?
I mean,
yeah.
There you go. So yeah, we'll drop the link for that. As I mentioned, we've got Kelvin, who probably needs no introduction at this point. Kelvin, an amazing contributor to the community, a blogger at CyberDrain, owner of his own MSP, Lime Networks, based out of the Netherlands, and also a active participant in open source more recently, including his project SIP, which is a multi-tenant management for multi-tenant solution for managing M365. And so we'll send the link for that too. I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about that. You've already seen people in the comments calling that out. Kelvin, sir, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. What a fantastic introduction. You just did everything about me, and I don't even have to say a thing anymore. Except one thing. Just a couple of moments ago, you said my last name, and it is the first name you ever pronounced it correctly. It's the first time you've ever done that.
That's it. We're done. I'm not saying it ever again. I'm just going to use that clip in the recording and play it from now on. Oh, man. That is incredible. I kind of want to leave on that high note. And then also we've got, you see him in the chat already, Ray, thank you so much for being here too. We're going to be bringing you on in just a little bit. But Ray is the CEO of OITVOIP. And he is also, again, an amazing contributor, active everywhere in terms of Slack groups, Discord groups, Reddit. He's all over the place, and he's all about giving back to the community. So in terms of sharing the love, he's another great guy. And then rounding out our panel here, we've got Tom Watson, our channel chief advisor. And Tom, a former MSP owner, has, since his exit, been all about giving back to the community again. He offers consulting work. He does all of our MSP live chats together with me. Tom, awesome to see you again, my partner in crime.
Great to be here. Thanks.
All right. So let's get to it. So thank you. I see some links being dropped already to the CTF and to some other things as well. So okay, so we're here to talk about open source, right? But that's one of the first things we're talking about. And I guess I want to start us off before we get into our list of some of the favorite open source tools that folks in the audience shared. We launched a survey to our customers, and we definitely had some very popular crowd favorites that got listed. We're going to share all that, but before we dive into that, I just kind of want to go around the horn here and get your thoughts on, what about open source kind of encapsulates some of the stuff that the good things about why you guys have gotten into this career to begin with. Tom, Lawrence, let's start with you, because you are a huge proponent of open source. You talk about things all the time. You do tons of reviews of tools. This is clearly a big thing for you.
I've been a long time open source advocate. That starts all the way back in the 90s when loading Red Hat was a series of floppy disks. So yeah, I've been advocating since before it was cool to advocate, because now it's become a little bit more mainstream, which I think is awesome, the acceptance. But back then it's like, why wouldn't you just use Windows or some of the normal off-the-shelf enterprise tools? But one of the things I've always liked about open source, and I think the Red Hat acquisition was a really interesting one, because it really highlighted a thing. If a company gives away the software, their value must be the people. And I've always felt open source was always how that works. So you have the value placed on the people, like, hey, cool, here's the code, but the real value is, hiring us for developing further code, hiring us to enhance that product, or some of the support contracts that get sold. Like I like open source tools that have business models around them, because that kind of proves they're very sustainable. Being able to see the code is obviously lots of great reasons, but first and foremost is always, it puts the importance on the people and the value of them, as opposed to, you look at something like I said, Red Hat, my bigger example of them is they're giving away all this stuff, but you bought them for a lot of money when IBM purchased them. It really showed that team that you have together developing a product is really what matters. Because, hey, here, cool, just download it if you want it. just a little bit different concept. But I've believed this for a long time with open source. And obviously one of the other aspects of it is the interactiveness you get as opposed to the black box, mystery software. This was something I thought was really fascinating when I was doing an interview a number of years ago at one of the big Microsoft events. I was interviewing Jeffrey Snover, came up with PowerShell, might have heard of the guy. And what he said, the big thing that Microsoft learned by doing more open source, and he's always been for a long time, him and Steve Ballmer were at odds to each other because of his lone love for open source. But he says they never thought about it at Microsoft until they started embracing open source and go, yeah, we never thought about when our customers could see code and help us make a product better. We always thought we just listened to their feedback, but it brought a different level of engagement with their customers. So it's, even it just took them a long time to see the light, but it's kind of, that's my overall feelings on open source. And one of the reasons I'm such a big open source advocate, why not? We get to tinker with everything. I've always wanted to take something apart. I want to know how everything works. So that's why it's kind of near and dear to me.
I don't think that you're alone there. And I see Elizabeth nodding a lot. So Elizabeth, do you want to take the mic here?
Sure. So open source, I think, is, for me personally, I came into IT back asswards. I actually started my degrees in environmental engineering. I dealt with water, which is the complete opposite of everything else we deal with, right? So I learned everything that I learned through free tools, through open source. I didn't go to any boot camps or anything. Everything that I've done is from pulling apart things that other people have made. And I love that specifically because that's our project. I mean, Kelvin sitting here, we have some of his scripts built into tier 2 tickets and help desk buttons. We have, it's not just our mindset, like Tom was saying, it's not just about creating something or profiting from something. It's about that communal aspect of being able to take something and build on it. And I really want Star Trek, the Next Generation, to be real. I want to go, I really want us to have that future. And I think that we do that by building on the shoulders of others, not just by building single silos of our own knowledge base. So open source is very important to us as a team and to me personally.
Wow, that's awesome. And you mentioned, Kelvin and his scripts. Lots of people on this call, I'm sure, if you're maybe beneficiaries of all the scripts that you've been creating, Kelvin, there's scripts that you've provided that are in our product and engine now. And that's not just true for us, it's true for other products as well. And then, of course, you've got your big project, SIP, which I'm going to drop a link to right now. But yeah, any other thoughts based on following up on Tom and Elizabeth there?
Well, yeah, it's hard to follow people who are such active proponents of open source because I actually, in essence, I am not. Okay. Yes, I love the open source community and I love being able to show people hey, this is the source code I'm using and have people contribute to that. I do, absolutely. But in my business, I don't believe I use any open source products. And that's mostly because I've always believed in sticking to specific streams, and I've made the choice to go for Microsoft ages ago. And Microsoft in the last, I'd like to say 10 years, but in the last 5 years, they've really shown they're a part of the open source community. They've really, for example, VS Code, and they've released major applications as open source things, or even their documentation platform is now being fed by open source contributors. But I can't say that I use it anywhere else in my business. So while, yes, for my hobby projects and my personal projects, I'm absolutely a proponent of open source, but I don't have anything to show for that in my business. Nothing at all, I believe.
Well, and this is actually, maybe this goes into maybe this part of the conversation. We got a question. And this is from Matt. Thanks, Matt, for dropping a question in. And everybody else, please feel free to use the ask a question function or just keep using the comments. That's awesome, too. But Matt asked, does the log4j vulnerability change the discussion around open source in any way? And then we've got Mikey doing a great response there. But obviously, there is, since you kind of brought up some things, there is this other flip side of open source. In fact, when we launched our survey asking people to say, do you have something that you're using that's open source that you can't live without? We did have some comments that said, no, open source is the devil. And so there's definitely some variants of opinions there. But yeah, in response to the security aspect or anything else on that side?
That's a heavy thing, especially with Log4j recently. I still believe that each company, no matter what product you use, whether it be closed source or open source, has an obligation to understand what that product does. And Log4j has just shown that a lot of people don't understand what parts of open source they've integrated and what the risk could be in the long run. They haven't really vetted it. So that's more of an enterprise and general IT problem than an MSP problem, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say too. And Tom, let's kick it over to you. I mean, any comments from there, or anything from your either your previous when you were an MSP owner? You know, were you leveraging any open source tools, or is there things that you're using now? I know a couple of the things that you're using, but yeah, anything that you want to add here?
Yeah, interesting. I'm gonna comment on a couple things. One thing is Kelvin. I like his transparency about that. Because when I owned my MSP, I didn't really embrace anything open source, and I really I'll be honest, I kind of discouraged it by my technicians. Some of it went on for some of the scripting related things, which ties back into what Kelvin was talking about, but never really did. Now, going off what's in the chat, I'm an all Apple user now, even though I was all Windows when I owned my MSP. And at Apple, the only thing I use open source is OBS. I found it extremely helpful for doing videos to put on YouTube and that kind of thing, simply because I've tried using other commercial tools, but it just seems better, mainly for the reason that I can switch back and forth between screens and what people are seeing, and it's extremely easy to use. And I think that's an excellent example of open source software. But that's about it for me now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up the point of, there's what we're using for business potentially, and then there's kind of what we're using on side projects and other things. So let's get to the list of what people shared, and then I want to also bring Ray on screen too. But let's check out what people said in terms of what is some tools that they're using every day. So here's the list of it, right? And on the panel, we're going to give you guys a chance to kind of talk about a tool that maybe you're using that you want to highlight, and maybe there's some overlap. Would love to hear if this is ringing bells with the audience too. Really, especially the first 5 here, or maybe like the first 6. These were in a lot of people's lists. I mean, everyone's using Notepad++, Putty. It's also interesting too, looking at the talking about security, knowing that some of these things can be used for good and bad. I'm thinking of the advanced IP scanner and to a lesser degree maybe Nmap. But these are some tools that a lot of people were chiming in on, like, hey, we love these things. We use them all the time. Anybody on the panel have looking at this list, any reactions to this?
I'm really far removed from the MSP world. I don't know what most of these are.
Yeah. Putty is pretty much your go-to SSH client. It's crazy to think that I've been using, I use Linux on my primary desktop, but years ago when I used Windows, and many of my staff still use Windows, Putty's still the go-to for SSH clients for sure. Wireshark, network engineers, it's something you have to have in your toolkit when you're doing things. As a matter of fact, that was just before I jumped on this, I was looking at a phone problem someone was having, and this is going to be the tool, that they're going to use to pull all that analysis and things like that together. Wireshark, it's great, open source, cross-platform, and just invaluable. There's not even really, I don't even know there's a paid tool that compares to it in its flexibility for, as a tool, network engineers need to decipher things when we got to really dive into traffic. And I'm a longtime user advocate of Bitwarden. I've worked with them a little bit. There's some, technology that they're working on to make documentation better that's coming out in the future. So yeah, big fan of Bitwarden. I threw it in there. Winderstat is great when you got to figure something out, but WizTree is a replacement for it that's actually much faster. And I seen the comments scrolling on it, so I'll give a shout out to WizTree as well. VS Code, that's just a great tool for doing coding. And then Rufus, Rufus, and I think the other one is Ventoy is another competitor for Rufus, but they're both good for setting up the USBs when you got to do some of that physical stuff. Right.
Man, thank you for that rapid fire rundown. And let's take a second to give a shout out to Ray here. Ray Orsini, thank you so much for coming on. You were active in the chat already, but anything else that you want to say, either reacting to this list or just kind of where you're at with open source and your
it's one of those things, like I'm looking at the list and yeah, I saw some of the comments, like some of it is free, but they're not open source, right? Like Advanced IP Scanner is not open source, but Angry IP Scanner is. They have their GitHub with their source code published. And I think that's a lot of the confusion a lot of the times too, right? Like we see stuff and we know the tools that are free and we get free confused with open source. And my whole thing is I see open source and there's tons of programs, like we were talking the other day about like ShareX, right? I use ShareX all the time, even though I have paid licenses for Snagit and other stuff. But I support the developers, right? Like I'm a sponsor of CIPP because Mikey and Gavin and Kelvin and all them, they're freaking phenomenal. And all these other open source tools, like don't take them for free. If you're making money off them, you're doing business using them, and we all are. We're all, business people. Support them if you can. Throw them a couple bucks every month. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'm going to run through here just to share some of the comments because, like I mentioned, we in advance of this, we asked people to comment and ran a survey. And so I want to give a shout out to everyone who responded to that and highlight a few things here. So like I mentioned, Notepad++, something that was on a lot of people calling out that this is something they use every day. And then Putty, as Tom mentioned, kind of a mainstay for a lot of folks. I'm just going to scroll through this pretty quickly. And then because I want to, and then Nmap, of course, is a huge one that can be used for identifying open ports and vulnerable systems. Kelvin has some great scripts that involve using Nmap. I want to give the panel here. Tom, you did such a great rundown of all these things. I guess I'll point out that we're going to share these slides and everybody can go through, and there's links to all these tools that are in here, as long as some other resources. So everyone will have access to that. Here's another one too. This taking screenshots, these things that are like maybe less tools that are like customer facing per se, but more just kind of like helping you do a simple thing, right? And then, okay, well, before we get to prize time, sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. Okay, let's go around. Tom, I want to start with you. You already mentioned, you love tinkering. Like you keep track of this. You're a big proponent of open source. Is there any tool that you would like to highlight? And I want to let you, the audience, know that I've kind of prepped the panel here to talk about highlight a tool, but I didn't really tell them that we're going to keep it short. So we're going to give them 40 seconds, and that's about the length of the Kenny G solo there. So Tom, you'll have 40 seconds to talk about any kind of tool that you would like, and it'll start when our music starts, which is now.
All right.
Oh, wow.
I would probably shout something that's really interactive with the community here that all of you can use. There's not a lot of debate. I would say would be diagrams.net. That is one of my favorite drawing tools. It just keeps getting better. And it's not only open source, can be integrated into things. It supports Office 365 integration, G Suite integration, can be used completely as a standalone product. But when you do some of the integrations, it can be used as a collaborative product for doing designs. And I think there is probably almost no one in the MSP community that could say, hey, our graphs are fine, our maps are fine, they're all perfect. We already know they're not. Doing a network map, and then even sometimes interacting with a customer just to have a flow, set up swim lanes, set up the whole, when you're doing your planning, having that tool is really, it's just a great tool. Me and Ray have shared stuff on there when we did some videos together. It's just like the quick and easy way to do a diagram interactively. And to mention, Kelvin actually has a project on his GitHub that uses Nmap to export from PowerShell and build network mapping kind of in an automated way to get your template started with it.
Beautiful. I love it. We'll have to, we'll try to dig up that link to that specific blog. Kelvin has hundreds of them, so it may take us a second. But while we're doing that, Tom, that was great. You went over the 40 seconds, which I think we'll allow. We'll allow it. But no, that was great. Thank you so much. Elizabeth, are you ready?
So ready. When I asked the dev team what their favorite tools are, they came with a list that was shared mostly here. But one thing that wasn't there, I haven't seen any of the chats, was flashpaper.io. So it's a one-time encrypted password or secret sharing tool. You can self-host it, but it's really, really easy to set up. And we know how important it is to be able to share things just one time. So I'll drop that in the chat there.
Amazing. Oh, wow. And in under time, too. Incredible.
Gotcha.
You are a pro. Awesome. Okay, Kelvin, let's kick it over to you.
Let's do this.
Ready?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Start the music. So my thing actually isn't 100% open source that I'm going to be talking about. It's freeware combined with open source, and it's pretty much everything made by one Romanian guy in a basement. And now I'm not doing him enough credit, but he's called Near Sofer, and his website is nearsoft.com. And I believe every MSP has used one or two of his tools to just, for example, find an Outlook password, or help with editing an NK2 file, or scanning a network very quickly. He makes very small tools for everyday use, just stuff that you can use for troubleshooting, or a quick network map, or finding passwords, or these kind of things. So it's amazing. It's not all open source, but Nearsoft has a lot of cool tools there.
Incredible. Cool. I really feel the love with with some of these testimonials. All right, Ray, let's go over to you, my friend. I'm going to reset the music.
I almost feel like, yeah. I mean, I got the candle going. I'll lower the lights a little bit, you know. So, I mean, I'd be remiss. I'll even get all sexy on it. I'd be remiss if I didn't just say OBS, right? Like, I love OBS. I know it's kind of a bear to learn. I saw Jeff and some of the other comments. But one of the things I love about OBS is the fact that, like, it's not just the application that's open source, but there's so many plugins. And that's the thing you find about open source, where you'll find so many other people just adding on, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And now with, you know, these open source, you can. So go get it. And if you need help, come ping me. I'll help you.
Incredible. Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, Tom mentioned that one too. It's one, honestly, that I feel like I could leverage. And so, Ray, I may take you up on that too. I've been scared of it. And I
got you, man. I got you.
Yeah. Learn it. It's great. You can do the camera switching and have multiple people and input feeds and go crazy with it. So
I know. It's look at this.
Ray's
Yeah,
show off now.
I know he's showing off now too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with having these events, I'm definitely interested. So, Ray, I will take you up on that. Okay, so thank you everybody for in the chat for sharing tools that you're recommending to keep that up. I jumped the gun before, but now it really is time for unveiling a prize. And so what kind of prize are we giving away here? Let's see, we're talking about tools. We have a toolbox that we're giving away. It's not just any toolbox though. This is a toolbox that is shaped to look like Thor's hammer. It's got 44 pieces, and so you can be the envy of your neighborhood, your community, with a Thor's hammer toolbox.
I want this. I want this so much.
Every time,
Right?
right? Every time Jonathan comes up with something.
I just love that this is a thing someone made. And I've seen, like, this has actually been around for a while, and I'm so glad that they've kept it going because it's amazing. It's incredible. And the chat, they love it too. Oh man. Okay, so
cool.
Who's worthy to wield it?
So I think in terms of the winner here, I think we're gonna pick someone at random. And so I'm going to ask our background admins, Dom, if you could pick someone's name and then drop it right in the chat, then we'll be able to tell who's going to go home with. I won't pronounce. How do you pronounce his hammer's name anyway? Can anyone do that?
It's Mjolnir.
Mjolnir.
Kevin's gonna be like, it's a Dutch word. It's Mjolnir. I've been begging my family for this forever.
Oh my God, Ray has the real thing.
I have Mjolnir and I have Stormbreaker behind me, of course, because I'm that kind of nerd. So
that is incredible, amazing. Pedro, just pick me. Oh man. Okay. Well, we'll wait here while we're picking a name. We'll do a drum roll and everything, but let's move on. We'll come back to the name there. Patrick McDermott. Pat, are you on the chat here? We'll see. There may be a little bit of delay. Well, Patrick, we're going to reach out to you afterwards. Congratulations for winning the hammer tool set. Yes. I hope you can wield it. Exactly.
Oh, congrats, dude. That's awesome.
Oh, man. All right, guys. So we're about halfway through. We want to switch gears. We got more prizes coming up, so definitely stick around. But we want to shift gears from talking about tools and technology, right? Which is what everyone loves to talk about. And so there's a flip side to IT work, right? We're not just like employed to use tech and tools, right? We're employed to help people. And so let's talk about that because it can get kind of complicated, right? This is something I'd love to go around the panel again. I mean, Tom, Lawrence, we can start with you because we talked about this earlier in the week when we were doing our prep call. I had a question of, is there anything that you kind of do in terms of your onboarding or other touches? And you mentioned that you had done that in the past, but now you've really kind of shifted your focus. Do you want to touch on that at all?
You mean for like how we engage with our clients?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's really tough. I mean, you can see, and because all of us have received this, no matter what tool you're using or whatever. How is our customer service? Rate us with a little smiley face and things like that. But it still doesn't capture the nuance that I think is really needed to have face-to-face meetings with people. And I think doing them online is a good proxy for it because, think about the number of expressions that my face just made saying that, or my hesitation when I pause. There's so much more nuance than when you type something. And I really encourage just reaching out, saying hi to clients, engaging with them just to say hi, go to lunch, have a burger, something like that. It can be very enlightening. So you get a deeper understanding because you want to understand, are you meeting their challenges that they're having with technology? Is it working for them? Is it too complicated? I mean, they'll feel bad, maybe not want to leave a star off of a tech, but if you talk to them in person, like, he didn't service it the way I want. He wasn't responsive enough, but I didn't want him to get in trouble. So I gave him a few extra stars. You can get those, but that nuance is lost if you only rely on some type of, feedback system. And I'm saying not to use those feedback systems. They help with data points, especially when there's no stars at all, or someone writes you a complaint. Now you have an absolute reason to engage, but don't just assume because they're always, ranking you high on a feedback that's everything's fine and there's nothing more that needs to be done. Take the time to have those in-person calls. I still, personally engage with a lot of my clients saying, hey, how's it going? Did the team service you well? Because they know I'm not always the one servicing stuff, but doesn't mean I'm out of the picture. I still care deeply about how those interactions go. I want to make sure the interactions are good, they're positive. And I have hired, a business dev and salesperson that still does this as well. So it's the way we get it. And so much of that is how you build your referral business because they interact with you. They also, it ends up being an accidental lead generation because we got referred a huge company from a smaller company because it turns out he golfs with this other guy and he never thought to mention it in an email to us that they've been for IT for a while. So these are all just positive ways you can engage with your clients like that. Have a conversation. Not everything has to involve a keyboard.
Yeah, no, that's great, Tom. And Elizabeth, I'm going to kick it over to you because like we mentioned, we're going to drop a link to your article. I mean, this is a big focus for you. And maybe you can preface this a little bit with explaining more about Tier 2, because I mean, obviously this is right in your guys' wheelhouse.
Sure. Yeah, we, our MSP, middle-sized MSP, for a while, we didn't pick up clients that were more than 15 minutes away from our office. We wanted to have that hands-on touch, that ability to drop in their office, to be able to have someone start on site. And so like every morning, that was something that was really important to us, that personal touch. We even give a bonus to a tech that will help change a flat tire for someone. So there's like those little human touches where nothing ever goes the way that you plan. Being a human, it's messy. Things are messy. And so Tier 2 tickets and help desk buttons actually came out of that. It was, we want to give our users this great service and we've created all these processes for them previously, but something isn't connecting. They're busy doing their job. They're busy being doctors, nurses, lawyers, and we're not getting what we need to serve them better. And so the point of tier 2 was not only to give the end users a really, really easy way to put in a ticket that they didn't have to know a password or remember or do anything remotely technical. And at that time, we're also going to grab a bunch of information for the technician so they can get started on on a project, on a problem, without having to go back and have a conversation with that doctor, nurse, lawyer who's too busy to answer an email or has left early for the day or whatever. So there's a lot of inefficiencies that go into just being human that you can't distill into a number necessarily, that you have to have those conversations. And there are ways that you can work into, create a process that will clean that up. But in general, you have to think outside the box sometimes.
Really well said. And speaking of being well said, I did drop a link to your article here, which is really all about kind of stressing empathy. I mean, the title of it's Walking the Line, Technology and Empathy. And I wonder if you can speak to that a little bit, because, in this section, we're talking about showing users the love. I mean, in a lot of cases, man, this is a tough job. People are coming to you when there's a problem, right? They're already defensive or upset or frustrated. And having that initial reaction of, okay, I'm here to help and not make you feel dumb about it. It can be a challenge, right?
Right. No one wants to look stupid. No one wants to look stupid. We talk about our end users sometimes, like, you follow stuff on Reddit and people are like, oh, well, this user did this dumb thing. And like, it's also possible they're dealing with a sick grandparent or a sick kid, or, they're juggling 3 other things. And, the thing that should be easy for us, the thing that's easy for us because we deal with it every day, they've only dealt with it they dealt with it once. And so Kelvin saying, I love being seen as stupid. But I think it's really important in that article. I talked specifically to my grandfather and actually went and visited him last week and got him set up with his smart television. And it was so funny. I got him set up with a smart TV after going through in rapid succession all of the QR codes to set up all of his apps, which password management is another conversation. But as soon as I'd set all of that up, then there was the Coinbase ad during the Super Bowl. And so it was like, I'd literally just had this conversation, right? I literally had this conversation with him. Like, I'm going through and like, I've taught him all of these other different ways that you can use a QR code safely, that you should expect to use it. And then he's like, oh, well, what about this one? Can we do this one? And I was like, no, let's not do that. And so it's, no one wants to be stupid. We want to figure things out. And if we can give our end users a process that's safe for them, if we can explain clearly to them, how to communicate with us and what we expect and how we're there to help them first, that does a lot more for helping that relationship than just doing it well.
Well, no, that's great. Thank you so much for chiming in there. And we got Tom back. Tom, I want to bring you back up for a chance to talk about this. With managing that line of not wanting users to feel dumb, but taking the opportunity, taking chances to just make them feel more welcome and show them a little bit of love so they can have a better experience. Anything you want to say there? Any kind of advice or stuff from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. I think you often find in individual offices too, there are people, your clients, that they feel left out in some way or not touched by your services, and just finding ways to listen to them through polls or your QBR process or whatever it is, that you have a little FaceTime with not just the people who are the decision makers or who you interface with at the client, but other people, especially newer people that come in, because a lot of times they have problems on their computers, or that's where some of the vulnerabilities have come about. And you hear about them when you have that kind of personal touch with not only just those kind of frontline people who interact with you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tom. And I saw some nodding heads there, but Ray, let's kick it over to you. What are you guys doing? With obviously now you've got your MSP, which you're primarily in vendor mode now, but you guys, your swag game, first of all, is certainly on point. So let's just get that out there. But yeah, anything you want to say about ways that you kind of go above and beyond, just chances to kind of show the love a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my thing is, and I'm all about community, right? It's the goal is to be everywhere they're most comfortable, right? That's the definition of a gentleman, making others feel comfortable. Taking it back to my old Cuban parents' teachings. And that when it comes to the relationship building, it's absolutely no different, right? So, when you start to communicate with people, when you start to build relationships with people, you'll see where they like to be communicated with, right? Some people will prefer Slack or Discord or a phone call or a text message. I have a good buddy, Jason Slagle. It's his birthday today, and he's a security guy. He prefers Signal, right? And so you start to look at, and happy birthday, Jason. And so you start to look at stuff and see how they like things, and you just want to be there to make them most comfortable, because everybody is always most comfortable in their home. And it's not an overt thing, right? Like, nobody thinks of their office as their home. They wouldn't say it out loud. I would, because I work out of my house. But you want to treat it like their home. You want to make sure they stay comfortable. And so whether it's and I like to look at the details, right? I like to look at if somebody likes, somebody's into cats, or somebody mentions something. Like, I keep little notes on Discord for people, like when their anniversaries are, or when they got married, little details like that. So I'll constantly, message them, hey, happy anniversary. Or, like a good buddy of mine, Eric Smith, he's a partner of ours. He joined Tech Bar. And he joined it from his anniversary trip with his wife, and just said hello in the chat while he was on his anniversary trip. Risky. She enjoyed it though, so I'm gonna say it paid off. But that kind of stuff, and you better believe I put that in my notes in my calendar. So like the following years, I'm proactive, happy anniversary, or send them a little gift, that kind of thing. People pay attention to the details. When they think your relationship is just a credit card transaction, they're going to treat you that way. When they realize you care about them as a human being, it's a whole different dynamic. And I purposely try to limit business talk, so every interaction is not just business, right? It's like employees. If every interaction is not criticizing, but coaching something they did wrong or correcting something, they're always going to see you as a negative interaction. So you want to make sure you offset that with positive. So I try to do more positive than negative. Same thing with the partners and stuff like that. I try to have more personal conversations with them than I do on business, which sounds weird from a vendor, but again, it's relationship building. Show them you care about them as a person.
I do love that the king of documentation here, that you've got it that basically what this comes down to is good documentation, but just for personal details.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Oh man, thanks guys. I want to move us along. We've got about 15 minutes left, and we're going to be talking about the Capture the Flag event at 2, so stick around for that. But we got some more prizes to give, and one of the prizes is going to go to the winner of a poll. And so if you guys check out the polls, we asked people on Spiceworks and on social to provide the best thank yous, right? Like what's the best show of appreciation they've gotten from end users? And we did some analysis, okay? And so this comes down to the poll. You'll see there's a couple of them here. We did some very sophisticated analysis of this data. And here's where we broke it down in terms of the anatomy of a great thank you for someone in IT. It comes down to 3 B's. There's baked goods, there's booze, and there's breakfast. And so for our prize, we thought, well, let's combine these 3 things. And let's give someone the prize of cupcakes that are chocolate, whiskey, bacon cupcakes filled with salted caramel.
So I'm probably going to be showing how European I am, but that sounds disgusting.
Okay, and
Kelvin,
it should be noted,
Kelvin's such a Grinch.
Kelvin is a beer sommelier, so he brings it with some level of authority. Just saying, if that was an IPA cupcake, he'd be all about it.
No, absolutely not. I mean, no.
Oh, so it's the whiskey. You need like a finer spirit in your cupcake. Is that what's going on?
Oh my God, this is no. Are you actually giving this away? Is this a joke?
This is a prize. And listen, we talked about personal touches. This is something that there's going to be a box of them, and the winner can deliver as they will. So I think the winner of this is going to be based on, if you see this top poll down here, we say which IT thank you letter was the best, and this is going to make a lot more sense in just a second. So this is what we're playing for. We want the audience to vote and pick the winner. But here are the best responses. This is my personal favorite, actually. When we asked, "Hey, what's the best thank you you've received?" We've got this this lovely individual saying that, okay, cards, alcoholic beverages, miscellaneous food. The best one was maybe this is more up your alley, Kelvin. A dozen meatloaf cupcakes. Is that the thing? It's not the sweetness. If it was a meatloaf cupcake, would that do it for you?
Yeah, that at least sounds normal and not like it's going to give me a heart attack and triple bypass all at once.
A meatloaf cupcake is absolutely going to do what you just said.
Meatloaf cupcake does not sound normal. I'm apparently not from Europe. You're different over there than I thought.
Hey,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
but this is great. This is sharing is caring, and we want to be. Oh yeah, there we go. We got a little graphic about the meatloaf cupcakes. Okay, next thank you letter was. I mean, this is pretty impressive on multiple levels. So there's a salesperson dropped their laptop. Had to get a new one. He was very appreciative. Provided a whole tray of baked goods. I want to know what this company is, and they have salespeople that bake like these types of things, because that to me is also not a normal circumstance. That's pretty unique. But I also like that this is like the setting the bar now of like, hey, do you want like a new computer? Do you want something fixed? This is what your colleagues are doing for me. This is how they're getting my time and attention.
I mean, I just have to wonder if that was done at home, or like, is there an office kitchen that's like properly set up? Because I have to imagine, like, if you've ever seen Kelvin sends these pictures of these foods he makes every single night, and it leaves you drooling. It's better than Food Network, I promise you. And so it's like, I picture Kelvin's office as like having like a professional kitchen, and he's doing charcuterie boards like made in house every day. So. Yeah,
so
I'm wondering, should we do this at the office?
Yeah. Well, I think the next event we need to have maybe a live cooking session. I think would be kind of interesting.
I'm down for that.
Okay, here we're going down the booze route, right? So we had the food items, the Kraken. We got some rum. That's rum, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's rum. Yeah.
You can't tell that's in anything if you mix it in. It's dangerous.
Oh, even better. So I mean, this is both the source and the solution to some future IT problems, maybe. So that was another thank you that someone got. And then let's go the sentimental route, right? So there's the booze and the food. I was kind of surprised. I guess not surprised, but I thought it was pretty touching that a lot of people just like appreciate a genuine thank you. You know, like this is a letter, like you're the heartbeat of the department. I mean, that's pretty killer. And we got some other responses that were in this line, not quite the framed photo, which I mean, this is like above and beyond, but just pointing out like, man, even just like a genuine thank you is really, really kind of hits home. And so to that point, you know, this last one here that we'll show is we got Girl Geek in Florida. Saying that she basically was helping out. I'm a little confused about the relationship here with the client and everything. But basically a user who's 85 years old and getting a message that basically just expressed sincere gratitude. And to me, I guess it just brought home like, wow, shouldn't that be the thing that happens more often? But I guess it's not, and it's really cool when it does. So those are the thank yous. And then underscoring that point, of course, Duke McAwesome, first of all, a great screen name. But he was not alone in having this response too. Like, wait, what? You guys actually get thank yous? Tom, I mean, what about you? Like, do you find your clients are genuinely appreciative, or is this something that's kind of rare?
No, I was hoping I had a picture of it and I forgot to post it. But we have a client who's clearly got some art skills and doodled a little thank you for fixing my computer and drew our logo and us fixing stuff, like doodled it all. And it was really cool. I was looking at my photos, see if I had one. I have been on a few occasions, including from an Australian client, gifted hot sauce from places. They said you can't get this because they don't offer shipping. So they took the time to buy a collection of, we're big hot sauce fanatics. For those of you that don't follow my channel, they sent us a big variety of some unique to Australia hot sauces. And shipped them to us. So I thought that was really cool. And we have gotten from a couple different places in Europe, different chocolates and other novelty food items sent to us, which we thought was really cool too, from some of our overseas clients. I thought it was really great.
That's amazing. You're also teeing me up for the next prize, which I want to hear from Kelvin, if you've gotten some good thank yous that don't involve disgusting cupcakes. But let's announce another prize. So Dom, if you wouldn't mind doing the honors and announcing another random winner from the chat here. I say you tee me up, Tom, because we're going to give away your pick of a subscription box. So you got three options here. You've got this is we want you to treat yourself, right? So you got a 3 months Fuego box, which is exactly what Tom was just talking about. It's hot sauce. So you'll get 3 months where you get 3 different bottles of hot sauce, and you can use that shared around the office or around with your colleagues, with your enemies, whatever you want to do. And then also for the pet lovers around, Rachel, our VP of marketing, is on the line. She'll appreciate that I included this. We got a 3-month subscription to BarkBox. And then the last one is coffee, right? We didn't go the booze route. We went the caffeine route. But this is 6 bags of trade coffee. So this is another subscription item. So, yeah, coffee, hot sauce, stuff for your pets. For our one random winner, you'll get your choice. And actually, I think we're going to do 2 random winners. So... Yeah, we're getting. Oh, look, Mikey is a fan of the BarkBox, and a lot of people are obviously excited about coffee. I could use some as well right now. So, Dom, as you're picking 2 other people, Kelvin, any good thank yous that have stood out from your clients or users that you've worked with?
Absolutely. There's actually 2 of them. The first one is 15 years ago when we moved out of our very first office. We had this tiny office in a street where people just lived. It wasn't a commercial district or anything. It was just some street, tiny little office that used to be a coffee shop, a normal place to drink coffee, not the other kind of Dutch coffee shop. So we actually started moving, and all of our desks were moved, and we just came back to pick up the mail and to just check if we left everything okay. And we had a letter in our mailbox from a girl that kept walking into our office on accident, just a little girl. And they actually made a little drawing saying, "We're so sad that you're leaving." And there were flying IT guys, and just, it was super cute. So that's one of the things that always stuck with me. Like, oh, that's a cute thing from just the neighborhood as a sort of thank you. And another one is we actually used to take commercial clients, and this was our very, very first, or just non-commercial clients we used to take. And this was our very first client. And every year, right before Christmas, this client comes over and gives us a cake, just a homemade cake. And he just gives it to us, no matter if we only helped him once that year or if we didn't at all. And it's just sort of a confirmation, like at the end of the year, you know you've done good if you get the cake. So we even named it after the client. So when December starts, everyone's like, "Who do you think will get client cake? Who do you think will get client cake?" And everyone, it really lives in the entire company. There's 50 people talking about a cake. It's a wonderful experience.
That's awesome. That is fantastic. And I've got good news. We did announce in the chat. Congratulations, Deb Turner. And then our second winner, Paul Faleo. Congratulations to you both. You're going to get your pick. And so if you're on here in the chat, let us know. I think we'd be curious. Like, what are you going to go with? But we'll reach out to you, make sure that you get your subscription on. Congratulations, guys. Okay, so let's kind of bring this one home. We got about 5 more minutes left. And we'll kind of breeze through this little one because we've already touched on it a little bit with Tom, you talking about collecting, satisfaction measurements, but I did want to share, this, but also some results here from a survey that we did. So yeah, 4 out of 5 folks who answered our survey, and again, thank you for doing that, everyone who did, said that showing user satisfaction is very or extremely important to proving IT's value, right? Awesome. That said, only 1 in 3 are actually measuring and tracking it in a real way. It's not anecdotal. And so I was just kind of interested. I don't have a big solution to this. I mean, this is a topic that we've touched on previous events. We did a webinar, like a couple of years ago now at this point, with SimpleSat, which we got Corey from SimpleSat. He's great. Elizabeth, I know you talked with them recently and did an event with those guys. Really cool solution. Smileback is another one, a competitor. I think they're a ConnectWise company now. So if you're a ConnectWise shop, maybe that's something that you're already looking at. And then I included another link here to a slightly different solution. This is Boast.io, where it's a testimonial type of tool. There's a bunch of these tools out there, right? And if you're using a bigger help desk or ticketing solution, there's some integrated stuff in there as well. But I'll turn it over to the panel here and maybe start with, let's see, who should we start with? Let's start with Elizabeth. Anything that you want to say, especially since this is a fresh topic for you. You talked with Corey recently. Yeah.
So much of this goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is just conversation. It's, you need to know what's going on, and you have to just ask. Sometimes we don't want to ask. Sometimes we're too busy. Having that conversation is a burden in some ways because you have other things to do, and you've got to take that breath and, focus on that person. I mean, it's really great. I love how we asked, like, what should we get for this prize here? Coffee, BarkBox, whatever. And like, you have to do the same thing with people. We're not pickup artists. You don't just, play this by the numbers only. You have to have those conversations. And so I really love that as the starting place. And one of the things that we touched on in that conversation that we had with Corey was the fact that when you have these conversations, it allows you to fix things that are problems in the moment. And a lot of times, you get these 5 stars or 3 stars or however you have it, great scores. Yeah. And then you'll have a really, really bad score. And hopefully they'll tell you it's a bad score. They're not just being, polite and scoring you and not telling you about their problems. But when you tell them about their problem, it gives you this great opportunity to resolve the relationship. And often the actual relationship versus the numbers is going to be better at the end of that than it was at the beginning. And you have to just have the balls to just do that, have that conversation. So, everyone else said that everything's frozen.
I know.
Really good. I thought they were agreeing with me, but they just are saying it's frozen.
Oh man. And then we got Steven. Just hit refresh. Yeah, refresh. Well, hopefully everyone can stay with us. But yeah, I mean, it's a great point to bring up. And obviously Tom was mentioning the same kind of a similar thing earlier. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious for those who aren't frozen, although it looks like a lot of people are. If there's if this is being tracked, and if this is coming up in for MSPs for during QBRs, or if it's coming up in other meetings where we're talking about getting buy-in for different things, as another metric or another way of showing. Hey, we're actually providing some value here. I mean, there's the obvious things where you see on people's websites where they're able to show testimonials and CSAT scores and all that stuff, and that's pretty powerful. But I'm just kind of curious if it's happening in other use cases too. Looks like maybe people are coming back. We'll see. We only got a couple of minutes left. Unless anybody here on the panel want to speak to this before, otherwise we can kind of wrap off and do some closing stuff. But any other kind of closing remarks on this topic?
I mean, make it easy for them to show appreciation, right? Like, you want to build that culture, right? Set the playground so that they can take advantage of it. One of the things we do all the time, we have a public feedback site, so people will give you something, say, oh, I wish I did this. I'm like, that's an awesome idea, even if it isn't. You know what I mean? It may not be for me. Somebody else may think it's awesome. It doesn't matter, but you want to open the lane for them to propose it. Hey, you know what? Go put that up on the feedback site. Let's see what happens. Same thing when somebody says something awesome about you, we say, thank you so much. That means a lot to us. We're going to share with the team. Could you copy and paste that at this site and go.oit.co/review, actually post to our Google review site. And we have a channel in our, don't hold it against me. I keep everything really nice that's said about me. I have a OneNote that I put it in there because we all have those bad days, and I'll put a screenshot and I'll look at the screenshots and it'll kind of pep me up that time, that day. Awesome. But we have a channel in Teams where if somebody says something nice about us, we put in there so the whole company is aware of, somebody that, said something nice about us. And you'd be surprised how much that colors the perception of the rest of the staff that may not have had an interaction with that person yet. But I've seen that it tends to improve the potential interaction the next time they talk, or that first time they talk. They're like, oh yeah, you said something nice about Marissa. You said something nice about Mike, whatever. and it just starts you off on a nicer foot. You know, so it's not just get the love yourself, spread it around, make sure everybody's aware of it. You know, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. I do have a similar thing, right? Except I don't keep it just for myself. I also give it to Rachel, my boss, and ask that she hang it on her fridge. Oh man, great points. And Tom, you want?
I have one more thing to say.
Yeah.
One of the things is often it's me or my salesperson doing the interaction with the client. Sometimes when there is feedback, I always make sure to bring it back to the staff as well about our performance, maybe an individual staff member performance. Because, you know, I get those like, hey, Eric was super helpful. And through a series of interactions, I just got a screenshot that came off of a tweet that came in as a DM. But it's funny. And then I shared it back to my staff because they helped someone solve a problem they didn't think was solvable. And they're like, I guess I'll contract you guys. There's another MSP. They contract, but then I make sure that the technician to help them see now. I'm like, hey, you did a great job with this client. Just want to let you know. I mean, I'm happy to see it because the customer's happy, but it was cool to really directly give it back to the engineer on my team that helped them to let them know, not just you're doing a good job, but hey, this person said this about you. Here's the screenshot. And I thought it was kind of cool. So it helps internally too. It's not just external engagement with your customers.
No, great point. I'm glad you brought that up. And actually, this is there's one last question. I know we're over time, but this is an important one that kind of feeds into that maybe a little bit, Tom. This is from Anthony. He's asking, how do you filter out like bad, destructive feedback? And I guess what he's clarifying, feedback that wasn't necessarily the tech's fault. And so basically, like, you know, are you acting as a filter in that way for your team?
Yes, and I think that's valuable because we did this in our pre-talk. I brought up a client that had to be fired, and all they were doing is buying some consulting hours, but they were super angry because they could only book 1 hour slots, and he didn't like the answer given by my technician that we only allow you can buy as many hours, but you can only book 1 hour at a time because at some point you don't only want to engage with someone for about an hour, and we want a break. And the rant that this person had left, you know, my team had seen it, and the way I filtered it right away, I'm like, nope, I protect you guys. I'm going to refund this person 100% of all the hours they bought and tell them go find someone else to consult with them because they were unreasonable before the bookings even started. So yeah, I do make sure I filter it and make sure there's context with it, because some people think the way you do something is unreasonable and then they take it out in a tech, or it's, you know, of course, some people are just unhappy with the way a piece of technology works and they just thought the answer was bad. So they blame the person who gave them the answer as opposed to, you know, what really is wrong. So I always, someone is a filter, but I still discuss it with my technicians because give them the context, because you can't just have the statement. You have to have all the context around it to explain it. So yes, in some ways I'm acting as a filter, but I've always liked the simple statement of there's no truth without context. Everything has to have a context around it to make sure it's explained properly.
And you did a great job of talking about that in our pre-talk, where, you know, you're that middle line, you're that line between your techs and the customer. And in the end, you're always going to, most always, you're going to take the side of the techs. You're going to take the hits for your techs, because that's loyalty. That's what they deserve. They're doing their job for you the best they can. So I loved how you talked about that earlier, Tom, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to give this context, but I'm having the experience and the wisdom. I'm going to make sure that everyone's served correctly in this situation.
I also do like Paul's suggestion that there be a Bob on staff that is the that everyone can just blame. Guys, we're going over. We want to encourage everyone to stick around here on the call who can, because we're going to be talking about the Capture the Flag event that Kelvin just launched, or that's going to be kicking off in next week, I believe. But you can sign up now. And so let's talk about that. I'm going to pull Mikey up on the screen. But before we go, the last thing, I want to say thank you to everybody. And one small thing. So for congratulations to the folks who are walking away with some prizes. But everyone gets to walk away with something, right? So we're sharing the deck, and as part of the deck, you'll have a link here. And maybe I can just grab the link and drop it in here in the chat too. But this is something that Elizabeth made when we were kind of talking about this event. You guys remember these things? Fortune tellers, the paper that you can fold up. I got mine actually made right here. Elizabeth made an IT help desk fortune teller, and it's got some great things. So you can give this to users, to clients, your techs, it's basically going to tell you your future of responding to any kind of ticket. Responses include, have you tried bourbon? It is DNS. It needs more toner, and so on. So yeah, this is going to be yours. You can print this out, make them for yourself. Hope you have fun with that. And with that, just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to everyone on the panel, Tom, Kelvin, Ray, Elizabeth, Tom Watson, who we'll get back on here in a second too. Thank you guys so much for taking time. And thanks everybody for being on the call. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope that you're getting some things out of it. We definitely feel the love for you guys sharing, coming on the event. So with that, if you got to jump, we totally understand. Some of our panelists here, I'll let you guys go. But Kelvin, you guys stick around. And Mikey, I'm going to pull you on screen too. And let's talk about the capture the flag.
Okay, cool.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Elizabeth.
Bye.
And bye, Ray. And Tom. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. All right, sir. So this is it. So I'm going to reduce my screen here. I'm going to share again. And I'll bring Mikey on. While I'm doing that and bringing up the site for the CTF, you want to give a little context? Say what this is all about?
Yeah, so it's actually super hard to explain because I have this theory that if you can't explain anything to a non-techie, you're not explaining it well enough. And I tried explaining this to some of my non-tech friends, and they were like, why the hell are you giving this away for free? Why is this a free thing? So a Capture the Flag event is normally a cybersecurity oriented event. In cybersecurity, it's very normal to train your skills using a sort of simulated environment. And a lot of these are found in large events. They're called Capture the Flag events because your target is to sort of become the king of the hill, to get the flag. And when you have the flag, you're able to say, yes, I hacked this machine. So we're doing it slightly different for the CyberDrain CTF. The CyberDrain CTF is focused on system administrators, IT pros, MSP engineers, whatever you want to call yourself, as long as you're into IT and troubleshooting and technology, you're able to play in this. And if you're not, if you're a business owner, show this to your team because it's an amazing educational event in which they'll learn to play with the latest technologies. For example, Microsoft Azure, M365, but also learn more troubleshooting skills, complex problems they'll troubleshoot, and they'll really educate themselves with more with a wider breadth of services. So it's not just focused on cloud technologies. It's not just focused on PowerShell scripting. It's not just focused on server management or workstation management. It's all of these are specific categories, and you'll focus on each of these points. And you won't just be sort of repeating the same exercise. They're all very challenging. Well, not very challenging. There are different levels of challenges, but they're all challenging in the way that you'll have to think about each one individually. It's not that you can say, oh, I found a solution for one, and you can apply that to everything. So it's just lots of fun to do. And we have one of our star players here. That's Mikey.
Hey, Mikey. Thank you so much for taking time. I mean, you were all over the chat, which is great to see. There's multiple reasons for you to be involved in this discussion. Obviously, with the CTF and your participation there, but also your participation in terms of your own development with scripts and things that you're working on with Ninja that you're making public too. So we're going to be dropping lots of links with that. I guess before we dive into the CTF, anything that what you think about this kind of session overall? Any other takeaways that you wanted to add for people?
I think it's been a fantastic session, to be honest. Probably one of the best you've done. I like the focus at the start on open source. I think open source has a place for MSPs. I think it's important to understand that place might not be replacing commercial tools. It might be hidden in your workflows. It might be the closed source tools that have open source components that you have to bear in mind, so that you're aware that you could get hit with a Log4j tomorrow because that commercial tool you're paying thousands of pounds a month for is bundling open source libraries. So you've got to make sure that your vendors are using open source responsibly, even if you're not using it. But also the people focus, the guests, having Elizabeth and Tom in there, it's been a fantastic session. Like focusing on the people, because at the end of the day, this is a customer service industry. The technology is secondary. Yes, we're there to fix and work with technology, but predominantly we're there to help our customers. We're in a customer service industry. So focusing on the people, the feedback, and the experience is important.
Well, thanks for that, and thank you for the compliment. It's another thing for me to send to Rachel to put on the fridge. So I appreciate that. And well, let me pull some other things on the screen here, so we can show off some of the things you're working on. But let's go back to the CTF. So Kelvin, you gave a great background for some of the context, but let's talk a little bit about some of the specific details that people need to know if they want to get involved, right? So I'm going to bring that back up on the screen here and highlight a couple of things. So first of all, I think this is an amazing opportunity for technicians. And I love that you're doing, as you explained, this isn't just for security pros, right? This is a different angle where it's sysadmin work. This is really a valuable training opportunity, in addition to a chance to team up with some of your peers and compete and everything. I know that folks had a blast with it the past couple of times that you've done it, and it's just gotten bigger and better. And you've gotten a lot of good people that are helping you out with it. So a couple of cool things to call out to the folks on the chat here. The maximum of 1,000 participants. So first of all, there's only one you. You got some help, but you put a cap on there. You can maybe address that. But I guess the reason I bring it up is, hey, you should go register now, because this is going to fill up. Absolutely, it filled up last time. You did some great things around making some additional spaces for some folks kind of in need. But it filled up last time. It will absolutely fill up again. And then once it starts, it's going to be February 28th through March 14th. So coming right up. So definitely take everyone on the call, take advantage and register now. Mikey, do you want to walk through kind of your experience with the CTF from last time around and what you're looking forward to this year?
Okay, so a couple of things. It's challenging. There are some easy challenges. There are some really challenging experiences in here. Everything you do in the CTF will teach you something, even if the lesson you learn is that you're overconfident and cocky, and that Kelvin and his other judges have just slapped you down a peg by putting in the easiest question in the world, but the one that you're so confident of the answer that you just answer it, and then you read the question and you've got it wrong. Read the question 10 times before you answer a single thing. That's the advice I'm giving you. I'm giving away my competitive advantage because that's all I got going for me this time. There's a lot of competition. I'm seeing some of the users registering. I'm kind of terrified. Kelvin managed to sideline Luke, who's done really well in the previous ones. So that was a blessing to everyone, because Kelvin kind of instantly removed Luke from the playing field by making him a judge. But yeah, it's going to be tough competition, but the opportunities for learning are just, it's going to be amazing.
And that's another thing to call out too, actually, is speaking of the competition, and there's a community aspect to this too, because in addition to registering, you guys have a Discord up. In MSP Geek, there's a Slack channel for it as well. Everyone's a lot of activity in there already. Kelvin, I don't know if you want to mention this, kind of speak to that point of it at all, but not only are you competing against people, you're also learning from it. There's a ton of activity in those channels.
Yeah, exactly. So it really is a community-based event. And someone just asked, like, if I don't work in an online environment and mostly use on-prem services, absolutely join, because there are workstation challenges, there are PowerShell challenges, that you might not know everything in the cloud challenges, but you can absolutely try undertaking them. And they're designed in such a way that theoretically, with a bit of Googling, with a bit of learning a new technology, you should be able to perform all challenges.
Second, I think it gives them an advantage,
really
Kelvin.
cool, because the chat itself, the CTF chat in MSP Geek, and we bridge that to our CyberDrain community. So there's about 400 people in total now that can chat in the CTF chat. There's always a lot of activity there. There's people trying to help each other without giving away the specific, the actual lead, like, hey, this is the flag. No, people are saying, maybe you should try Googling this thing, because that's what helped me find it. And I also talk about Twitter about it and tell stories on how specific challenges came to be. And a lot of people follow those and they start chatting about their own experiences in the CTF chat. So that really helps too.
Honestly, that's one of my favorite things is following your story time threads on Twitter, from seeing where some of these challenges came from, because it's not just like they came from nowhere, right? They're coming from direct experiences.
Yeah, that's also one of the most important thing about the challenges. I want them to reflect real life. A lot of the CTF challenges that you see in cybersecurity don't reflect a real life challenge. They're like, oh, break this specific encoding and then you'll get your flag. No, this is stuff like, hey, this server crashed. We want to prevent data loss. We don't have backups. What the hell are we going to do? So it's really like those situations that could happen to your actual MSP.
Well, and to that point, maybe Mikey, you could speak to if you can remember from the past challenges, if there's one that kind of stuck out to you as being particularly challenging or one that you liked a lot. Before you do that, I do want to I'll tee you up and give you a second to think about that, because I want to highlight the prizes. Because as was mentioned in the chat, I think Mike maybe mentioned this. As if you need more incentive. There's some cool prizes. So like, and brought to you by some great sponsors. So Huntress sponsoring the top 3 places. We've got a starter streamer pack, so you can be like John Hammond and be casting. And of course, then you can also hit up Ray for OBS knowledge, and then you'll be a complete streaming pro. We've also got the gamer pack, the PS5. I don't know how they got their hands on that. I'm jealous. A Switch. Oh, look at this. It's Ninja. We're giving away the Lego AT-AT, the big walker. This is the big version. Also, we're throwing in a lighting kit too, which looks ridiculously cool. Dado, we'll get to it. And then we got OIT. So Ray obviously involved in this. Some familiar faces, doing a couple of prizes. PAX 8, Lifecycle, Alex and Marty. Giving away some cash there, and then Gradient, Blumira, Tier 2. So we got Elizabeth and Alex doing their thing with a Millennium Falcon. So really cool prizes. So I just wanted to share that. But Mikey, any to give folks on the line kind of a sense of challenges. Was there anything that kind of jumped out from a previous one?
Okay, so my first example of a tough challenge is the sneaky one, and it's the one that makes you realize that Kelvin is at some level just a sadist, just a horrible sadist. All this community stuff is just for show, and he's really just a sadist.
Absolutely.
And it's the question about Azure SQL licensing.
Wait, okay. Now, is this going to be a spoiler at all, Kelvin? Is this okay that we're sharing?
No. This is a challenge that I actually felt bad about afterwards, because this caught so many people off guard, and like one person knew it. One or two people knew the answer. When I asked them, how did you know the answer? They were like, I dealt with this just 2 weeks ago, so I knew it. And that was the only reason they knew.
So nice. So Mikey, anything else you want to add to that other than the fact that this is going to cause pain?
Yeah, it's going to be the one. It's going to be the same one that Adam has kind of highlighted in the chat. And Adam's one to watch as well. He'll undersell himself and then sneakily just kind of slips into one of the top places. Like don't trust Adam if he tells you he's no good at this and he's going to fail. Like he's sneaky.
Okay, so
but it's domain replication.
Gotcha. Okay, so this asks maybe another question. Like if people are kind of considering to register and to get involved with this or not, what kind of time commitment are we talking here? I mean, obviously, if you want to place highly, I mean, it's being kind of drumbeat. This is going to be competitive. This may take quite a bit here, and you're going to have to be fast. But I'm sure, Kelvin, you've stressed a lot that like even beyond that, there's good reasons to be involved with this. But in terms of like a time commitment, what are we kind of thinking here?
So there's a couple of things about the time commitment. I can't say how long you're going to spend on troubleshooting one thing. Like Mikey just said, we have some amazing players that join every time. This is the third CTF I'm doing. And both Luke, Mikey, and some others joined each of them. And also they always compete. They compete like demons. Because, for example, I'm pretty sure that Luke hasn't slept in 33 hours. Because last time he finished the first place in 33 hours and something minutes. This year, we're trying to stagger that a little, so to prevent having a winner immediately in the first couple of days. So we're going to stagger some of the challenges. But I think in time commitment, you should be thinking about an hour a day, maybe less, if you want to finish each challenge and do one per day.
I mean, that sounds pretty reasonable, especially when you take that hour versus sitting in front of a TV or eating discussing whiskey cupcakes. You spend your hour doing the CTF and learning something instead. Special prizes. You brought this up too. This is another point about I really appreciated your approach this year of it not just being about the ranking. Like, of course, yeah, the goal is to win this thing and to take home a really cool prize. But there's special awards like you mentioned in the chat too, where there's going to be someone selected at random, most improved, highest placing first-time participant. These are cool. I really like that you're taking this path too and getting more people walking away with stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want just the leaderboards to be like, oh, hey, you have to score very good to be able to do it. And if you think about it, it's a 1 in 1,000 chance that you actually win something. Because if you're a returning player, there's a 1 in 1,000 chance. And if you are a new player, there's still random selection. So it's actually 2 in 1,000, I guess.
And it looks like we got another ticket. Paul, you're in. So yeah, this is cool. I mean, as you'll see, you've got encouragement here / peer pressure, but I mean, the thing that I've seen just related to this and related to SIP too, which we didn't really get a chance to talk about too much, is just the community aspect of it, and seeing folks come together and be just really collaborative around a thing. I guess the real time commitment you're looking at is once you stumble across these communities and you see how valuable they are, they're probably going to be the big time commitment beyond the CTF.
I think Mikey joined MSP Geek thanks to the CTF.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I haven't had chance to get you back for that yet, but some kind of retribution is coming for the fact that you got me into these communities and now I can't get back out. It's all your fault, Kelvin.
It's all my fault.
Well, before we go here, guys, this is great. And if obviously if there's any questions, I mean, the site, I guess I'll pull this back up. You've got a great FAQ. We'll make sure that people know how to get in touch with you. Mikey, you've dropped the links to the communities. You can obviously talk to a lot of folks and find out more. But if there's any other questions before we wrap up from the audience here, hit us up in the chat now. And while we're waiting for that, Mikey, I want to give you a little bit more of a spotlight here. So I wanted to share your GitHub, and then also, I think I had a link to your blog, and I've misplaced it, so I'm going to pull that up as well. But you're doing some really cool stuff, and I guess I'm interested to hear from you. I didn't realize that the CTF was partially responsible for you getting into MSP Geek, and then of course now you're sharing. You're not just involved in that community. You're sharing things. You're developing things, and you're sharing them with the broader community. You want to talk about that kind of journey for you a little bit? Not to be too introspective, but I'm just kind of curious.
So I've always been a bit of a proponent of open source, which is why I liked the discussion earlier. I've always been a fan. I've been sharing stuff on GitHub since GitHub was in alpha. I go back a while with contributions to open source projects. I hadn't really been doing much in open source with the MSP world until the CTF, really, until kind of coming into that community and that world. And looking at how much realistically Kelvin was sharing so Kelvin's the reason that I've gone back through, almost a decade's worth of internal scripts and modules and bits of PowerShell, and I'm kind of trying to clean them up and share them with the broader community, because it was looking at, how much Kelvin puts out into the community and how much good that's done for the broader MSP community, globally speaking. And I honestly, I see that as kind of a model that's worth embracing. Sharing some of this information, giving MSPs who might not have the scale or the time to develop this automation, or these scripts, or go into this stuff in this depth, giving them a bit of a leg up. It's a nice thing to do, and I enjoy it as well. But also, it helps. It's not entirely unselfish. So I've shared a good example is a little PowerShell module for interacting with Microsoft Graph and sending emails. It's relatively speaking, as PowerShell modules go, it's tiny, but it's nice and lightweight and it's easy enough to use. We've used it internally for a while, and I shared it externally, and I've got people from the community coming back and saying, "Oh, there's a little bug here that you hadn't spotted," and they're right. We've been using it for 5 years, and there's a critical bug in it that we hadn't spotted until a couple of days ago when someone pointed it out. So the community helps us as much as giving the scripts to them might help them. So yeah, two-way street.
Oh, well, that's, I mean, of course, it's very nice of you to say. And I mean, both of you guys, it's been very cool seeing how big of contributors you are. And I mean, it's just kind of amazing to see it keep going. I mean, you bring up Mikey Kelvin, his just the early efforts with the blog and sharing the scripts, and now seeing, like, what I appreciate about you, Kelvin, is it's never enough, right? Like, you're constantly looking, what is the next thing? And the CTF was launched, SIP was launched. I mean, it's just very cool to see that not only are you doing this in a small way, that you're doing more and more of it too. And then you're inspiring others. So, hey, hats off to you.
The joke is that you have reason to be terrified, because the joke we keep pointing at Kelvin is that the next thing on his list, the only thing he's got left now is an RMM.
Okay, so let's not make this into the Kelvin show. This is the Ninja RMM Live IT Love Fest, okay? So no, I'm not never starting an RMM. I can promise you that.
Well, we'll see. We will see. Who knows what the future will bring? But I mean, really, honestly, I think what's very cool about all of this is that, in addition to these individual things, like Kelvin, every one of your blog posts, Mikey, the PowerShell modules that you're building, the individual CTF, even, there's this bigger thing that's now forming around it, which is the community, where more projects are coming out of it, more people are getting involved and active. And so, when we do this when we highlight the next CTF, I'm hoping that we get to bring on some more people who are taking your guys' lead and approaching and participating and contributing too. So, thank you guys both so much. And I think with that, we should probably wrap. But thank you, everybody in the audience. I really hope that you check out the CTF. Get into the MSP Geek in the group if you got more questions. I think you'll get more than enough people ready and eager to respond and help you out. And hopefully you'll be bringing home some good prizes.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll be catching up with you very soon, I'm sure.
Okay, cool. See you later.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Yep.